Hi, it's Chris Titley here, and on today's episode of Scoreboard, the podcast, I'm joined by Matt Denholm, Executive Director of Hoops Capital, and we are sitting here, centre court of Hoops Capital East. Matthew, thank you so much for hosting us today, and welcome to Scoreboard.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me today. I'm looking forward to the conversation, and welcome to the Hoops Capital East. It's a great facility that we have here.
Yeah, I know, and we're doing it right on the middle of the basketball court on a beautiful day in the heart of Sydney. Matt, how's your morning been?
Morning's been good. It's it's a lovely day out in Sydney today. It's we're in the midst of free agency for the NBL and already in planning mode for the next season of the NBL and WNBL for the Kings and Flames.
Yeah, and for the listeners out there, do you want to give them an understanding of what Hoops Capital is, how it began, and what equity stakes, etc. you've got in teams?
Yeah, absolutely. So Hoops Capital is an overarching brand that sort of came out of the fruition. The Sydney Kings are a brand that existed within the ecosystem for 40 years now, and about 5 years ago, the owners of the Sydney Kings bought the Sydney Flames and connected the two professional teams in Sydney together to create the Hoops Capital brand, bringing the centre of basketball in Australia into Sydney. We're the only team that has both the professional men's and professional women's court, and that sort of expanded ourselves. We've got our site here, and we're in the midst of building a high performance centre out in Auburn as well, which will be another Hoops Capital facility. So really excited about that.
Yeah, and your interest in basketball, where did that come from?
So basketball has been a family sport. It's a sport that we've been really interested in and love being around for my whole life. Like I remember my first game I ever went to, we were living in Melbourne at the time. I went to Southeast Melbourne Magic versus the Hobart Tassie Devils, I think they were at the time. Just sort of being in the park, the black uniforms of the Magic, it sort of really was an amazing atmosphere, and it sort of took it ever since then. So it's
and who are the players around then? I remember it was the Southeast Melbourne Spectres as well before that as well.
Yes, it was.
Yeah. Bruce Bolden, I remember.
Bruce Bolden was a favourite. Sam McKinnon was a favourite.
Ended up coming to the Bullets for a bit.
He did. And Bruce actually, his son actually played for Jonah played for us last year, which was pretty cool as well. So Bruce Bolden, Sam McKinnon, Andrew Parkinson, great players, and then Chris Anstey as he came along and things like that. So loved the Magic players back in the day. Yeah,
and as you were growing up, did you have any connection with the NBA as well? Did you keep one eye on what was happening overseas, or was it mainly an NBL?
Yeah, I mean, look, that was obviously around the time of Jordan with the Bulls, and so as that was exploding, we always followed the NBA as you could. It wasn't on TV as much as a thing, and you actually got to experience being at an NBL game and going to games and things like that. But Love the 90s teams. Loved Larry Bird with the Celtics, so didn't get to go to a game in that period of time, but have been subsequently.
And the NBL has sort of gone through its ups and downs, and teams have gone through its ups and downs, including Brisbane that was out of the comp for a few years there. Larry's come in and bought the NBL, and over the last decade or so, you've seen grassroots explode, and you've seen the popularity of basketball. Where do you think basketball is now from an Australian point of view?
From an Australian point of view, I think that basketball's never been in a better place. I think that the incredible achievement from the clubs coming back through over the last year, it was obviously a tumultuous period all through the 90s. Basketball was growing, and then the dark days through the early 2000s and things like that. Obviously, Larry buying into the league and then also the clubs sort of changing to more professional ownership has really had a great impact on the league. Grassroots basketball in itself, it's the second fastest growing participation team sport in the country. We're seeing kids here. I mean, we sort of have this facility here. We see hundreds of kids come through the facility every week, wanting to learn basketball, wanting to play basketball, and it's a great game. Like, it doesn't need to be organised. You can play it on the streets. There's a whole culture around basketball that I think is really emerging, and so it's a combination of we've obviously followed things from what happens in the States, but we've got our own style here in Australia, and the way we play is an exciting brand of basketball, and littered in fundamentals, but we've got some exciting athletes.
I've got a theory around participation at grassroots level of basketball. It's quick. Firstly, it's indoors. It's there's 5 on the court, there's lots of subs, there's lots of movement, and the kids sort of can't hide per se, or not hide, but they can't. You're running back and forth all the time, and in AFL you're doing that. But sometimes if one team's dominating and you're an attacker, you're not getting anything. In cricket, you might not bat, you might not bowl. Like the actual participation from a physical point of view and a time point of view really attracts to the parents, I suppose, versus your son or daughter not being able to potentially participate in a game that's played.
And it's often an indoor sport as well, which definitely doesn't help.
Rain, hail, or shine.
With rain, hail, or shine,
Yep.
you can play, and so playing the games inside obviously makes a big difference. But completely agreed. Like the fast-paced nature, there's only 5 on the court. There's less contacts. That we're not talking, lots of concussions and things like that, as are often with other sports and things like that. And so I think that all of those factors really blend into it, and it's a lot of fun. Like the kids, they're tired afterward. They love it. They get to run around and all of those kind of things. Good for parents, and again, doesn't take all day and things like that. So it's
and as the owner of Hoops, looking at the community and looking at grassroots, what are you seeing? Are you seeing like maybe a shortage of courts, or maybe a shortage of referees or slots, etc. Or is there something that an owner of a team and an owner of a consortium of teams can do to help at grassroots?
Absolutely, we've been a big advocate to encourage more courts to be built around. We know that we're 150 courts short every weekend by basketball. 150 courts short in Sydney every weekend. And so you've often got players and gyms being used all the way through to 11 o'clock at night and things like that, just due to the demand. And we know that some kids get turned away based on all of that. And so for us, we're advocating for, as the sport continues to grow, we want more people playing the game. One, keeps kids active. Sport's obviously a great way to do that. Basketball's a great thing to do that. And so we want more facilities to be built, and both publicly and privately funded.
Yeah, and in terms of the ownership of both the basketball clubs that you own, are you looking at, I suppose, the data around that, the participation, the talent pool, etc., to try and make sure that Hoops Capital and the Sydney Kings, they're kind of well known, or do you want Hoops Capital to be in the background?
Look, I think it's both. I think that it's really important for the Sydney Kings and the Sydney Flames to have their own standalone brands. Obviously, they're playing in the professional leagues. Those are the beacons of light within the community and things like that. Hoops Capital, we want to continue to do more. We want fans attracted to what we're doing, to have more programs and things like that for kids to participate in as we are doing more and more. It's an important part of the grassroots and pathways program, and for us it's instilling some of our knowledge that we've learned from the professional level down into the community programs and things like that. We often host lots of holiday camps and clinics and things like that. Get either the Kings players or the Flames players involved, but also we're developing programs that are looked over by our basketball department that are all about making kids better at playing basketball. And so from learning how to play to then developing the skills to become elite players and play at higher levels and things like that. We're sort of trying to navigate that whole landscape.
Yeah, and navigating with the CEOs of the organisations, or CEO, navigating with the coach, navigating with the players, the owner as well sits up here. Does the owner sort of say, "I've got an idea"? I go, "That's the worst idea I've ever heard." Or there's a collaborative through the whole chain of events. How do you get along with them all?
No, absolutely. Look, I think we're all here for a common purpose. That's the main thing. Is that we want basketball to be a tier 1 sport in this country, both from a grassroots level to a professional level as well. It's important for basketball to continue on that trajectory that we're going on now, and not take a step back. It's something that we're very focused on, and there's ideas. We want to hear from ideas from all across the organisation. It just as much an owner of our organisation may have an idea to do something. It's a great idea. We'll look at how we can address that. But just as much as the people who interact with fans, from a membership, from a commercial standpoint, anything like that, it's there's always there's multitudes of ways that we're looking to engage with that community.
In terms of a plan, do you have like a 5-year plan or a 3-year plan, or what does success look like for you as an owner of a team, as well as financial as well?
No, absolutely. So I think there's a couple of things for us. I mean, one, and I sort of alluded to it before, we're in the process of building our high performance centre out in Auburn, bringing our Kings and Flames to training into one location with co-located with our front office staff, our medical team on site, and then having a public facing space there it will be a game changer for us as an organisation. We're currently working through that now, and that is just about to kick off underway. So we're sort of 12 months away from that. That's probably the biggest project that we've got going on now for us. Those are sort of success. Those things sort of help to breed success. Obviously, success on the floor definitely helps. We want to get have more members of both of our clubs. We've got a goal of getting 10,000 members with our 10,000 Sydney Kings members. So we're a couple of thousand away from that. That's something that we want to achieve. It'd be a great thing for basketball in this city. So those are probably some of the metrics off the top of my head that we're working towards.
Chatting to Mal Watts from the Bullets and Christine from the Jack Jumpers, they talk a lot about the game day experience. Just get the family or get people to come along and try the game day, and then they'll get hooked.
Yeah.
Right. Can you talk about your game day experience? The crowds have been phenomenal for Sydney. How are you going to keep that? What are you going to do to keep that game day experience alive?
100%. You've got to keep constantly evolving and understanding the fan that comes in the door and what they're about. It's we sort of talked earlier about what attracts the kids playing basketball and things like that. It's no different on a game day. Being at a game at Qudos Bank Arena, it's the lights, it's the action on the floor, it's the dunks, it's the 3-pointers, it's the court, but then it's the music, it's everything like that adds to the experience. And we've seen our crowds grow over the last few years. We had a sold out Game 3 and Game 5 Grand Final Series a couple of years ago at Qudos Bank Arena, which was the largest crowds in the NBL, but we've also set regular season attendance records over the last couple of years. We had over 17,000 people come to our Pink Hoops game doubleheader against the Jack Jumpers last year and saw our Flames and our Kings get a win in that game that we've been doing for 3 years. So for us, it's how can we have engaging moments with the community for them to keep coming back to games. It's a great game day experience is one thing, but meaningful moments is definitely another. And
then we talk about winning. We talk about some things that you can control a little bit, but also you can't control. Where does winning come into the spectrum of success for the Sydney Kings?
Winning's a really important thing. It's Sydney is a winner's town. There's obviously so many things that are happening out and about in Sydney. The fans want to see. They want to come to a game and experience a win. Nothing's guaranteed, and so all we can do is put our best foot forward, with our coaching staff, with our playing roster, and everything like that. And we constantly are looking to, refine those processes and get longevity in the team and things like that. But winning's an important thing. Winning is very important.
Yeah. So two things on that: longevity of the team. It builds a consistent team. I think a few people have talked about that in terms of successful teams. There's consistency, in the roster. You can name the Southeast Melbourne Magic as a kid. I can name the Brisbane Bullets as a kid. These players were icons. They played year after year after year. You've just signed Matthew Dellavedova. Do you want to talk about that and how important that is for the next 3 years?
Look, absolutely. Look, signing Matthew Dellavedova for 3 years is a great win for the organisation as a whole. I think that his proven track record. He's an NBA champion, NBA vet. He's been successful at every step along the way. Sort of came back to the NBL, went back to the NBA. Like it's a great story, and he's the kind of player that on the court he is a fantastic player who brings that leadership. He's that true point guard that every team is sort of striving for, and things like that. And I think that the way that he'll interact with Xavier Cooks, I think they'll be a dynamic 1-2 punch. How he'll be with Kendrick Davis on the court, I think that there's some excitement there as well. And then we also we're talking about some of our guys, Quatnoy, coming back off winning the Sixth Man of the Year.
Some blitzers off the bench during the year.
We're excited by them and year of growth for some of our other guys coming as well. So. Those are exciting moments for us, and I think that the putting things together on timelines that stand over a couple of years always are always what we're aiming to do.
How did the Delhi deal come about? Was there some Bitcoin offered? 'Cause I know he's a big Bitcoin man. He's always on LinkedIn talking about the Bitcoin price.
Very much is an enthusiast, and we had a great conversation around, I guess he's a really entrepreneurial thinker. It was a really interesting conversation. It was almost, for him, he wanted to understand what we're aiming to do as an organisation, and we were able to talk through those opportunities and things like that, what we've got coming with the High Performance Centre, what we want to do on the court. But for us, it's a great thing. He's obviously got a great relationship with Gorge as a head coach. He's got a great relationship with assistant coach Andrew Bogut. Those kind of relationships. Played with Xavier in a Boomers campaign and stuff like that before. I think that ultimately for him, he saw it as a fit that he wanted to be, and we couldn't be more thrilled to have him as part of our organisation. So,
brilliant, yeah. Let's talk the Flames. Made the playoffs this year, it's the first time in a while.
Yes.
Talk about their progress, how they're going, and obviously there's some things happening in the WNBL, which is sort of associatedly linked to you as well. Do you want to talk about the growth of the Flames and where you want to see them and the WNBL?
Absolutely. Look, the Flames as an organisation, the brand has been around in Sydney and synonymous. I mean, I remember going and watching Michelle Timms play, Trish Fallon.
Yes, yeah, we had Sandy Bondella on the podcast recently.
Fantastic. Yep. And so, there was a really strong brand with the Flames, and a few years out of the playoffs, I think it was 7 years, and what we've really been spending over, if I talk about longevity, the last few years, bringing Guy Malloy on as the coach, he's been able to build the program, and we've been able to get consistent with him, and assistant coach Renee Garlop as well has been fantastic. And so we've sort of built that. We're sort of aiming to, I guess, continue to build off that success from last year. We've got Shanice Swain as an exciting up and coming player, and so I think that there's some excitement around the team and what we can do there. It's always and then I think to talk to our goal with them, it's just as much with the Kings. I think we're sort of where they were a few years beforehand. We're starting to see crowds build, which is an exciting thing. We want to have a great game day for people to come out. It's a lot of under 18 girls coming to the game. So seeing their idols on the floor, there's nothing better than that. And so it's being that inspiring piece for the fans coming through, for them to see what they can be.
Yeah, and when we were growing up, there was no Instagram, broadly speaking, no social media, and to see players on the streets, you get an autograph, not a selfie, and all these things have changed, right? Yep. And now the point of storytelling is very important, and brand, personal brand for these sports athletes and teams, etc. How are you thinking about the digital age as an owner of two different clubs that need to become, storytellers as well?
I think it's some of the most exciting thing about it, because again, you talk about that, getting an instant, but the fact that our fans can see these athletes on the floor, both male and female, and then can actually go and follow the ones who've got a public facing profile, and they can follow their journey with what they're doing and things like that. I think Shanice is a great example. People can follow her journey she's in training camp for the Los Angeles Sparks right now at the moment. Follow some of our guys, like Xavier's been playing with the Boomers currently, and so seeing what they're doing, I think, continues to add that connection piece to what the athletes are doing, and I think that's a really exciting thing. It does allow an unlock that people who are fans can get as engaged with the athletes as being able to be shared and get those more meaningful engagement with them. And so I think it's a great thing for the athletes to be able to continue to build up the game of basketball. Like those meaningful connections really go a long way in shaping things.
Do you get a report on the data points or numbers of followers, etc. on the teams? You look at that, and how important is that kind of to keep an eye on?
Look, it is an important thing. Obviously, looking at our team pages and the growth across there, it's we sort of saw a massive spike last year in our TikTok followers and things like that. It's being really aware of what audience you're trying to talk to. Obviously, there's so many different platforms now, and it's not just sort of send people to the website, but although our website's one of our most tracked platforms still, and so it's sort of speaking to each of those platforms and how important they all are in in growing the game, and that's part of what it's all about. The more fans, the more the more engagement, and the more people we can get out to a game. It's yeah.
And let's talk the business of sport for a bit. You've got Amy as a sponsor. You've got them on. How important is a good sponsor? How important is getting corporates involved, past players, I suppose, building a legacy, building a business network around the club?
It's super important. It's sort of everything we can do. As the game continues to grow, there's more and more costs around to it all. But for us, it's the engagement with our partners that is so important. We've got a fantastic relationship with Harvey Norman. They've been our principal partner for the last 2 years. We've worked diligently, really well with them over that period of time. We did an event. With their CEO Katie Page as well as my mum Matt Denholm, as the business of talking about the business of sport was a really important piece that we sort of engaged across there with Harvey Norman. And so the partners as they come on, it's the importance around it really is to talking their interest in the game of basketball, and that's the key. We want to work with partners, and we continue to work with partners who are interested in the growth of the game of basketball. It's they see how much the sport is growing and things like that, and they want to interact with an iconic brand in the Sydney Kings and Sydney Flames, and that's the exciting part for us. So we couldn't do it without our partners.
Yeah, and the role of the leagues in that, they've also got their own partners as well, but also the amplification of the league, which is the WNBL under new ownership, etc. But the amplification of the NBL in general, may also the rising tide lifts all boats.
No, look, absolutely. I think that the league plays an important role in scheduling, putting games on, and the importance around that, and the importance of what the league can do from a broadcast level and things like that it'll only be continuing to be an important piece for clubs as we continue to go forward. And so it's great. There's been a lot of stats around the growth of the league and growth in viewership and growth across the board, and that's an exciting thing for us to be a part of. And obviously, there's got to be collaboration with the clubs. The clubs do so much to help improve that product as well. But it's great to see the spot where we're in with the NBL, and exciting to see the growth that we can have now with the WNBL coming through. Forward.
Matt, interested in your business background, where you've come from, your background, and what sort of culture you want to bring to Hoops Capital.
Yeah, absolutely. So my background, so we sort of been in our family office now for nearly 5 years now. Been investing across multiple asset classes, but one of the key ones, and where it's important, is community is one of our it's three major pillars. And community for us, it's improving the place where we live. It's giving back to the community through an investment focus, and that is what Hoops Capital is. And so it's basketball, and again, as I sort of said, it's basketball from the grassroots all the way through to the elite. It's the thing that we know from a community standpoint can continue to enrich the community, which we think that sport does. It's the exciting pieces around there, and continuing to draw on what they can be, and go from there. Yes.
Now, I've done my research for this podcast, and I think there's this little secret hobby that I may have uncovered that is a tradition that maybe for the last 10 years or so, every Anzac Day, you are the ringer of a 2-up game. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And where can we see Matt Denholm every Anzac Day?
I do it at the Australian Hotel in the Rocks in Sydney. Me and a very good mate of mine. We've been, we sort of started doing it, about 10 years ago now. It was an opportunity. We knew the family that owned the pubs really well, and had worked for them previously, and they wanted somebody to come in and run the day. I will say, I help a lot. My mate's an auctioneer, and so he handles a lot of it. But it's a great day. It's a great day. There's a lot of vets that come along for the day, and it really is one of those days that brings the community together, and there generally is a couple of thousand people.
One of your values as well, the community. Yep.
Exactly. And we think that those spaces and things like that are very important thing. Well, those
What's
particular to me.
what's the key to successful two up?
Look, the skis. You've got to get the coins above your shoulder, get a nice little rotation on them, and then have them land generally within the square of where.
And there's a few people arcing up, and you have to get involved in it and say, "I'm the ring, eh?"
Yeah.
Take control.
It's a pretty good game, even though with the amount of people there. I think that it's one of those days where people understand what the point of it all is, and so people get behind it quite nicely. Yes.
And your love of other sports? Do you watch sport? Are you a sports lover? Are you a sports nut? You love the data? Can you sit on a weekend and go, "I've got nothing on." If I've got nothing on,
yeah,
just watch sport all day.
No, look, I love sport. I went to high school in America for a couple of years, and so played a bit of NFL over there, and so I enjoy watching the NFL, which was great. But sort of basketball, love the NBA. Basketball, I like American sports. Like watching the AFL as well. And then don't mind we're having a great season, but don't mind watching the Bulldogs, and obviously
the Bulldogs. Well, they're sitting on top. And this podcast might age well, or it might not age well in terms of where they finish at the end of the year. But they're sitting on top right now.
It's been a great
blip against the Bronx, but yeah.
It's been a great season so far, and it's been a few lean years, but excited by what's happening along there.
And just touching on America, you sort of lived there and had a bit of time there, and following American sports that do commercialism and capitalism on sports so well. Yeah. Do you watch that and go, "Oh wow, that's interesting"?
100%. There's nothing as I love going to games over there. Love seeing the interactions and things like that happens within the fans. It's I'll give one other story. I actually was recently in Japan and went to a basketball game in Japan, and it was a great. The game was the game is growing dramatically over there, and seeing 12,000 people at a game on a Wednesday night was amazing.
Midweek,
Midweek, stadium was sold out, and the atmosphere around it, and again, we sort of talk about the lights and the sounds and everything there, but they're still learning the game. So I also saw, they're flashing up the rules in Japanese on the thing, and the crowd couldn't have been more into the game and things like that. And that's what we want to have for our game day. There's nothing better than indoor in the stadium, watching fans clap, cheering for the team, and getting that excitement behind it. I think that there's nothing better than that.
You want a close game. And I was talking to Alistair Dobson from Cricket Australia about the BBL. They want close, exciting games and high scores, etc. You want close, exciting games to promote the game of basketball, but you also want to win. So it's a bit of a tricky one, right?
Absolutely. Look, I think as an owner, I think close games are all right.
The Kings had a few this year.
We did. We had some nail biters, but I'm also very happy with a 20-30 point win.
Yes. Yep. Speaking of sport, we do this section called the Scoreboard, the all-time favourite sporting moment, which is a bit of a tricky one. You might have a few, but have you got an all-time favourite sporting moment?
All-time favourite sporting moment. Look, I think one of my most exciting sporting moments that I was lucky to be in person for was actually when we were playing New Zealand Breakers for our second championship. It's sort of been a really hard-fought series.
23,
back and forth.
Yeah?
Yes, yep. back and forth, and they'd gone on a run. They had Jarrell Brantley and Derek Pardon and having this great game, and Angus Glover sort of took a three in the corner, looked good out of the hand, hit the backboard, but the grit and determination, he's got the rebound and then went up for the dunk, and it sent the crowd alight, and it really that sort of finished their run. It was the from memory, it was in the fourth quarter, and it just sort of set the place aside. And so hearing 18,000
got a few goosebumps still thinking
100%. It was an incredible moment to be a part of. Like, I can't that was definitely one of my all-time highlights.
All-time favourite sporting moments. We also have the Scoreboard moment, which is part of this podcast, which is a moment in your life which you remember, a bit like a Kodak moment or something where you go, it's so memorable, and from that moment on, things changed a little bit. What's your Scoreboard moment, mate?
My Scoreboard moment. I actually think I will take it all the way back to. I can vividly remember. I was 5 years old, and the first time I walked into Melbourne Park or I think it was Rod Laver
One of those
Arena
beautiful
now.
stadiums that Melbourne's got all the way precinct, which every other city's very jealous of.
But you know, and I can remember the green around the court and walking into that stadium for the first basketball game. Like it was just, it really did set that love of basketball alight. It's something that again, given I was probably first year at school at the time, it really it's set in my mind so vividly, and I really just, it's one of those things I think that set my love of basketball, and did
That's awesome. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Speaking of you must have seen a lot of players in your time, and Jordans and whatever, and through the era, and amazing. As an owner now, do you go to some of the trials and the scouting, etc., and be a quasi scout and go, this player looks really good, we should have a look at them, and if you do, what are the characteristics that you look at for a player?
Look, and we're lucky enough that we've got a whole basketball department and things like that.
Not
and
you,
so
you're not.
but
maybe you can get the overriding vote sometimes at the end.
But I think for us, we look at a couple of different things, and it's character of the players. It's how they interact with their teammates. It's how they are after the good moments and the bad. I think that there's nothing. There's nothing more uplifting, and you see with the players when it's a great team on the court how they'll come together and things like that. And I think that skills are an important thing, and being able to jump out of the gym or hit 53s while you're open are great skills to have, and important skills to have. You can't win without that, but there's got to be that culture piece to it. And if that's not that element to it, then a team can't come together, and so not everybody's going to be the Michael Jordan. You also need your glue piece. You need you guys to do the dirty work. You need your Luke Longleys who's going to come in, block some shots, get some rebounds, score some points where there's need be, because they make the superstars be able to thrive.
Yeah, you mentioned Luke then, and Andrew still part owners of the group. You want to talk about their involvement? How do they get involved?
Absolutely. So we've got a really collaborative ownership group. So our ownership structure here at Hoops, it's us as well as my capital group, which is our family office. We've got TSC, who's minority owners. They were the
previous owners of Hoops,
majority, and so they've got they sort of help us across with business design, all of those kind of things. And then we've got Luke and Andrew as part of our ownership group. And I've never, I thought, I knew a bit about basketball and followed it my whole life. Talking to basketball with them has been incredible. The knowledge and depth of game has been incredible. I think for Andrew, he's also got a great business mind as well. He, has definitely, worked across the business side as well with us as the ownership group. But having him now, wanting to start his coaching career with us as an organisation, I think is an amazing thing for us as a team. And then Luke as being a special advisor across our basketball team. They've Luke winning 3 championships with the Bulls, Andrew winning a championship
with the Warriors.
With the Warriors. They know, and again, both of those teams, the 72-10 Bulls and the 73-9 Warriors, they've been in 2 of the most successful regular seasons. They know what it takes, and there's something about that when they're talking to the guys. I think that that they've helped our players develop over the years just as much as the coaches have, and things like that. And it's that kind of knowledge and being there and doing it in the past that's invaluable.
2 different personalities, I think, from the outside anyway. One that's sort of quite loud and one that's quite shy. Probably coming together makes a good match.
Look, and I think that they're very complementary of each other, and they're very, they stick by their opinion, and there's a force of personality with both of them. That's a really important dynamic for both to have. And we did a speaking panel actually here on where I'm sitting.
Right on centre court.
Right on centre court with both of them and Brian, and they were sort of talking about their relationship, and they've got this shared history. I mean, obviously Luke was the first Australian drafted in the NBA
T-Wolves,
with the Timberwolves, and Andrew was the first Australian to go number 1. And the fact that they had that shared history
with the Bucks,
both Midwestern, both spending time on that upper Midwest. It's I think that that shared history and the fact that they go back so far with each other, there's a lot of trust there, and I think that's always an important thing.
Chatting to Christine from the Jack Jumpers, she said the importance of a coach is paramount. It's like and even Mal has appointed a new coach at the Bullets. Let's talk about Brian, the importance of him. You get all these players and the chemistry, etc., but you've got the coach as well. And they need to get along with the coach and need to have someone at the top that drives it forward.
Absolutely. Look, Brian coming on board last year was we were really excited, and for us as an organisation, I think that some of the things that he's done with us behind the scenes and the way that he continues to push forward and the development of some of our players. Obviously, we had Alex Tui last year, who was and Brian worked really hard on development and things like that. There's the element of developing players, what you get on the floor, and then the culture you're setting up behind the thing. And it's very hard to have a one year sort of everything goes in a flash of the pan, and it's good, and it's all about sustained long-term success. And I think Brian's had a great history of showing what that cultural resilience comes through the team, and so we're excited what we're going to put on the floor with that.
Yeah, and you touched on the Australians in the NBA. We're seeing a great contingent of Australians playing in the NBA. We've got the Olympics coming up in 28. We've got Brisbane hosting it in 32. Let's talk about the Opals and the Boomers, how important that is as well from a holistic point of view for their success.
I think you see every 4 years when the Olympics happens, the sports get their moment in the sun, and the whole nation's behind what's happening, and so for the team success that we've had on the women's side with the Opals has been fantastic. Obviously, winning a bronze medal at last Olympics, plus the medals that they'd won in the past. But I think the Tokyo Olympic. I'll take it back to the Tokyo Olympics. Is when the men won the bronze medal, that rose gold. That was sort of peak, sort of all through lockdown, all that kind of thing, and it was such an exciting moment to finally, they'd finished fourth 3 times before that off the top of my head, and to finally break through, you could see how emotional it was. There's that, I think I've seen the photo go around a lot of times of Joe Ingles and Paddy hugging and just celebrating how much it had meant to them after 4 Olympics to finally get that medal. So the Olympics, how important it is I think, basketball as it continues to show why it is a global sport and why it is important to us in Australia with the many multicultural elements that we have and how that can continue to grow. We had one of our Kings players, Bull Quoll, he represented South Sudan in the last Olympics, which I think is a great is a great story. It's a great thing for us as an organisation. We supported him along that way. He had a great game defending. They played Kevin. The US team, and Kevin Durant specifically mentioned how hard Bull guarded him in that game, in that game, and so and again, I think it just sort of talks to the different multicultural elements that we've had in Sydney, but as Australia as a whole, and celebrating all of those moments, and the Olympics is amazing at that.
Yep, and the aura around the US team as well. Every Olympics there's the dream team from 92. And I reckon if I got Andrew Gaze on the podcast, I reckon his all-time favourite sporting moment would be that bronze medal. Remember, he was tearing up live. You can watch it 10 times over. He still gets referenced in his AFL bounce, jokingly about that moment. Hoops Capital, the name suggests hoops, basketball, etc. Some plans on the horizon at looking at other things and other investments here and abroad?
Oh, look, absolutely. Look, Hoops Capital, it's a big aspirational statement. We're very much focused that Sydney is the most important basketball market in Australia, and for basketball to be successful, Sydney has got to continue to be the Hoops Capital. So for us, it is just as much as the business plan going forward, as much as it is that this is the epicentre for basketball in Australia in our minds, and so it's continuing to grow that, continuing for that to be at the forefront of everything that we do. And then look, as we continue to go forward, we want to be helping in how we can in facility spaces and things like that. So there's definitely an interest in I guess being a multifaceted business, and we're doing a couple of different things in that realm now, but that's definitely the core of everything that we do.
Matt, one final question around business and the business of sport. There's people out there that are growing up going, I love sport, I want to get involved, maybe in the administration side, maybe on the ownership side, maybe as CEO of an organisation, etc. From your business skills and business acumen, what sort of advice can you give these people that are interested in sport that potentially from a business point of view that you adhere to?
I think that the most important thing, and I think it's just as much as important, is you've got to, people like sport was always a love of mine, and the only way you can get involved is to put your hand up. It's to put your hand up for whether it be local community things and getting experience in there, and it can be any way of doing that. We actively work with an education provider, and we've got a Hoops Capital Seeder program that we're working with those kids to see what they're actually and so I say kids, they're 18, 19 school leavers, and working how what their interests are. They know they like basketball, and so what is it about that? And if they're not everybody can be a coach. That it's just as important, and if we talk about the game day, it's just important about what happens on the sidelines of that with our team running game day. It's just important, if there's no tickets sold or there's no membership sold, well, you're playing in front of an empty an empty stand base. It's just important in the marketing side of it all and things like that. And so it's looking at opportunities and sort of. Nothing's ever going to get sort of handed on silver platter. You've got to take it, and the importance around that is how you do that from there.
Matt Denholm, thank you so much for allowing us to come to Hoops Capital's East. We're sitting right here in the centre court for this podcast, and congratulations on what you've achieved thus far with the group, and thank you for sharing all the tips on 2UP, the tips on sport in general and your life and where basketball has been and is progressing in Australia, and looking forward to following the progress.
Lovely. Thank you very much for the interview, Chris.